Okay, so now very briefly, I'm just going to kind of talk about, considering I based this off of Westside and Conjugate kind of style of training, I'm going to basically show how I kind of decide what we're going to do, or at least how I'm going to do and how I build certain lifts, the way I look at things. So first, I definitely want to give credit to Dave Tate and Louis Simmons and all them for basically bringing this knowledge to the forefront, teaching me, and all that kind of great stuff. I've also put my own spin on it. So a lot of stuff that I learned showing you that annual plan came from Dave, Louis, Russian texts, different things. But then I've also made my own tweaks as when you're trying to build your own philosophy, you definitely should. So, if anyone's watched Dave's supplemental video, it's over on Elitefts. It's probably over an hour long. I believe it was presented to like Learn to Train 8, I think. Watch that video. It's going to go into way more depth, but essentially I'm going to cover something very simple and probably about maybe a tenth of the time. So, if we're looking at assuming we're in like an off-season work, we're going with the still max effort, dynamic effort setup. If we're looking at like our max effort movement, okay, it doesn't matter what it is. We're going for a 1 to 3 rep max, or pretty close. I'm just using this to write it down because it's pretty easy. Then what I personally do is back down sets. It doesn't really matter how you do them, what percents you pick. I've experimented with different things, and I found things that I like. But really, for a raw lifter, I'm talking for a raw lifter. Let me make sure I say that correctly. We're gonna do 2 to 4 back down sets. Okay, and we want more reps, so we definitely want to go for the 4 to 6 range. Okay, these are not maximal. Okay, they're not maximal. I can't stress that enough, because this is our max effort work. Okay, that's where it's supposed to be really freaking heavy. This, all we're trying to do at this point is accumulate more volume with the desired rep range that still lets us handle a heavy enough amount of load, but to where we're not going to basically break our stuff down. Okay, then we're basically going to go to a supplemental movement. Okay, we're going to try to find a lift. Let me go the other way with this. We're going to use a lift. It's going to build that lift. Doesn't matter what it is. So if we'll just say, for example, that we'll use for an example. Let me grab a different pen. We'll say, for example, this is going to be a safety squat bar movement. Regular safety squat bar movement. Really going to attack the upper back. You're picking that because you're pitching forward about halfway up. We need to build that. For me, that supplemental movement is almost always the front squat. Why? Because your torso has to stay incredibly vertical. You're going to get a ton of quad work. And if you pitch forward, you're going to lose the weight. And you can't use a whole lot of load. So it kind of built-in limits some more CNS stress. So now with this is again all personal preference of how you'd like to program. But for me, this is usually anywhere from 3 to 4 sets of about usually 5 to 10 reps. Try to stay on the heavier end of things, but it just depends on how you like to program, how your body responds, things of that nature. So you can even a thing, these work really well with pause squats for raw lifters, so you can do some pause work. You can also do this, where you can definitely insert some more box squatting work if you would definitely need it, to get those reps in that you would need. And I mean, that's really it. It's really nothing too complicated from this standpoint. Now, I personally like to pick a second supplemental movement. Let's eliminate this number 1, number 2. This, again, is going to build this. But, depending upon what my max effort work was, I like to try to make this a derivative of what I was doing up here, or the opposite. So the way that I like to look at it is, this is a squat day, that's a squat, I want this to be a pull. Okay? Doesn't really matter how you want to do it. I want it to kind of be a little bit of a pulling variation. Now I do put good mornings in that pulling variation for the lower body day. Now, even though you're technically not pulling anything, it's still going to help build the pull to an extent. If it's a bench press day, let's say I pick floor press with a competition grip, this I'd pick something to build that competition grip up. Doesn't matter what it is. You figure that out for yourself. Here would be a close grip variation or more of a higher rep variation. I like to use dumbbells and dips and blast wraps in this area because it's still a compound movement, it still has high transferability to the supplemental, which is also going to then help build up the max effort. So here is usually around, depending on the lift, 2 to 4 sets of about, this is again higher reps, 8 to 20. Now the reason I have 8 to 20 is because with the bench press I found that volume works better. So as I know that, at least from a personal standpoint and the clients that I've worked with, we're going to go more towards the ender range of that this group. So we're probably looking more around 12 to 20, 15, 20, somewhere in there. But with this example here, since it's a pull day, I'm probably going to go more around the reps of 8 to 10. It's just a lot more stressful of a movement, and doing a pull movement of 20 reps is just absolutely ridiculous. So when I come to this for me, on this example, would probably end up being the snatch grip RDL. Seems absolutely ridiculous, but having that wide grip is eventually going to help my upper back stay locked in. I'm going to build my hamstrings, glutes, low back. That's going to help my front squat. That's going to help my safety squat bar, assuming that my safety squat bar is going to build my squat. Then from here, we're looking at accessory work. This is where things get a little less complicated, but you still want them to help all this stuff. So usually I'm looking at about 3 lifts. So we're looking at about 3 assistance lifts. Lower body days, it's almost always an ab variation. This doesn't really build up to a lot of this stuff. This stuff just needs to be done, period. Okay? So this is usually for me anywhere from 3 to 6 sets, depending how I'm feeling for the day. Usually falls around 3 or 4. If I'm feeling good, I'll go up to 6. This is going to be more stuff that's going to build the things up here. So we really need some extra leg work. Maybe if your upper back is the issue, maybe even some upper back work. So you may even be looking at some things like some lat pull downs, or let's say, or even like some shrugs, something like that. Here's probably going to end up being, depending upon how you squat, this is going to be somewhere in here, is going to be very detrimental that you pay attention for this. If you are a quad dominant squatter, you will probably need more quad work. If you are a wider stance squatter, sit back a little bit more, you're probably going to want more hamstrings. Now again, this is very, very specific for each individual person. Now, if your hamstrings are weaker, you're going to want the hamstrings, and if your quads are weaker, you're going to want the quads. So you can make a case for both ways. You just need to take in a true assessment and see what's limiting, in this case, your squat. So for me, that tends to be more quad work than hamstring. I get ample hamstring work for the most part. I've never really had an issue in that department. So for me, this tends to be quad work. It doesn't really matter what I do. It can be leg extensions, reverse sled drags, things of that nature. Single leg work falls in there pretty well. If you've got a commercial gym, you're looking at leg presses, things like that. So the idea here is that all this is going to build that, and that's going to build all this stuff. So, better talk about sets and reps. These are basically going to fall into the 3 to 6 sets, and really you're wanting reps more than anything else. So you're wanting 8+ reps. I would say probably even 10, but you can get away with a few sets of 8 on like lat pull downs and things like that. So that's how I would do my programming if I'm looking at an individual day for my max effort work.